Hey everybody. Oh, this is so cool. Oh, it's so good to see you guys.
Hi,
Tina,
how you doing?
hey, this is really fun. This is like colliding of so many little worlds that you don't all know each other, but we know you.
It's awesome.
Um, for those of you who don't know, Tina, I was about to say the top left, Tina, she's the one who used to live right down the street. Now she lives just slightly further down the street and has Willoughby's best friend,
Yeah.
the Boston.
Aw. Hi. Love Willoughby. I'll show you Bryn, but she's passed out. But
Oh yeah, I'd love to see Brad. Oh man, this is great. Abby, Katie, Danica, Mariah, Mary Lindsay, Maggie, Erica, Mom, hey,
there
Shannon,
she is.
Zach and Kristen. This is great.
Say hi.
Here's everybody. Oh, hey, Bren.
She's so sleepy. Okay. Hi.
You know what? I'm gonna make sure that my camera's right. Let me do that. How about that? Has anybody been on like 150,000 Zoom calls since
Yes.
all of this? And still, and still. Lots of, oh, can you hear me there? Oh, my mic isn't even right. Speaker.
We can hear you.
That's good. Better now? Video. Hello. Okay, so there are a few things that I wanted to mention, just kind of housekeeping stuff. While we're actually doing the launch, while Rachel's talking, make sure you have yourself muted so that your camera doesn't like pop up when the door opens or you sneeze or you start talking and you forget you're not on mute. So just make sure you're muted during that part. Also, I think I have the ability to mute you, so I'm going to do it if I have to. And let's see, housekeeping stuff. We're going to start in just a minute, let some people trickle in. But, oh, we're going to take questions. So you can either, I don't think we have a question thing. So just post in the chat if you have any questions for Rachel. I'm going to be collecting those as we go. We'll have a Q&A at the end so that you can ask any kind of questions about the book. My person's reminding me that I need to talk to the camera. So yeah, post questions. Instagram, I might be able to get to your questions. We also have an Instagram live for the Zoom people. We're getting super digital here. But yeah, you can post questions in Instagram or Zoom. I'll try to get to those Instagram questions if I can. I'm also going to tease a fun announcement at the end, so stick around. I'm excited to share that. Max says, can I request a signed by the author edition? Yes, you can. Right now, firediariesbook.com is now live, and you can go buy the paperback signed version on firediariesbook.com. Yeah, firediariesbook.com. If you're wondering why we didn't get firediaries.com, it's because it was like thousands of dollars for that URL. And that was just like crazy. So we got Fire Diaries book. Why not? And where can we get t-shirts? firediariesbook.com. You'll find a link to the shop and you can get a t-shirt there as well. We don't have a whole lot of those, so get them while they're hot off the press. Thanks to Matt and Abby in the Zoom call. They were the ones that printed it. Matt runs Trust Print Shop in Texas, so thank you so much for printing those. They're beautiful. Let's see, what else? I'm going to announce Rachel in just a minute. I've announced firediariesbook.com. Oh, we also have a bundle that we're putting together. So if you want the t-shirt, a signed copy, an ebook for your Kindle, and an audiobook coming this summer, Rachel's going to be recording the audiobook of Fire Diaries, which is very exciting. You can get that as well. So that's all the stuff that I have. Make sure you, oh, thank you, Lenine, for posting the link in the chat. That's great. Yeah, so just make sure you're muted while we're doing the launch. And I wanted to, yes, I'm officially kicking it off now. That was the housekeeping. And I'm going to tilt this camera up for now. because I'm standing. I planned on sitting, but I'm not. So most of you know a bit about our fire story. So I just want to explain just a little bit that 5 years ago today, our apartment caught on fire at 3:30 in the morning. We were asleep and we just heard banging, just some kind of banging. We knew our neighbor was having a party, and it was quite startling, but we didn't know what was going on. And then we heard it again and heard, "Get out, get out." And we just instantly crazy awake. Rachel runs to the window and sees smoke and was like, "There's a fire. What do we do?" And we grabbed a few things, ran out, and a minute later, our whole entire place was on fire. And it was just terribly excruciating. It was not fun. It was hard. It was a really hard time for a while. And I want to say a thank you to a lot of the people that we have new friends that we've met since then, but all of our friends and family really stepped up and helped us a bunch right afterwards and helped us get on our feet pretty quickly. And it was amazing how quickly people came to help. But that's only part of the healing process, is getting support. A lot of that healing process is very internal. And the way Rachel really processed the healing side of things was by writing this book. And it's a very heart-wrenching and raw look at what trauma looks like, especially after loss. And my personal experience of reading the book was that when Rachel was writing it, that's a tongue twister almost, she at one point was just like, "I don't want you to read it. I don't want anybody to read it until I'm done." And so I was like, "All right, that's what you want to do. I'm going to just let you write your book." And so when she was finished, I actually had a hard time getting into the book, not because I was having a hard time. I almost didn't want to start reading it because I knew it was going to be heavy, and I avoided it for a little bit, which was really not an awesome husband move to do. Right. But once I read it, not only was I like flooded with a strong emotion, but I was learning things about Rachel that I didn't know. I'm her husband, and we talked all the time about our experience with the fire, but I had never really gotten that depth of what she was experiencing. I didn't know the things she was going through internally. And so for me, her husband, not to know what was going on internally with her, so many things she was processing, so many things she felt about our old home and the things that we lost. To me, it was very telling that when I talk with other people who are dealing with trauma and dealing with stress and anxiety, that there's no way for me to fully understand. And that one of the most important things you can do with that is to just like love the people and not pretend like, like, "Oh, I know what you're going through. I know what it's about." But I had a profound experience reading the book. It was my own story. So I may be a little biased, but I was incredibly moved by her words. It's kind of crazy. Now I want to bring up Rachel, and she's going to be reading a few portions of the book. And she's been in the green room eating her snacks and getting massages and doing some yoga, getting to this master level of Zen, I think. Totally not nervous at all, I'm pretty sure. So, another thing about doing a virtual launch like this is that when you're in person, like you get that energy of the room, like everybody gets to cheer and like you feel the energy and emotion. And right now we're literally talking to a webcam on a stick and looking at your faces on the screen, which is beautiful and it's wonderful. Actually, that's the most beautiful part. Hey, Greta, is seeing so many people that wouldn't have been able to come to a physical in-person launch, and you're here with us. So that's really beautiful and wonderful. But I would love it if you would unmute yourself now. I know I told you to mute yourself, but I want you to unmute yourself. Give yourself the permission to hoot and holler. I know none of you are in a coffee shop, so you don't have to be quiet. Unmute yourself right now and give it up for Rachel Saylor. I want to hear you clapping and hooting and hollering. Yay, Rachel!
Hi, everybody. This is so cool. Oh my God. Yes. I'm looking at the wrong place. I'm looking at your faces. Anyways, here's the camera. I'm so thankful and grateful for all of you being here. It means the world to me. And seriously, I'm already tearing up. Run in place. It's a classic Kimmel move. When you start crying, just run in place. I swear it works every time. Okay, we're good. Yeah, this is great. So today I'm going to be reading some passages and maybe I can get this together. Yeah, it's crazy because it's a 5-year anniversary today. So having all of you here with us, it just means a lot. And even though we couldn't do it in person, this is awesome because most of you aren't even from Arizona. So yay, you're here. Apparently I need to do a little more yoga and Zen to calm down. Anyways, I'm just feeding off of all of that awesome energy. Okay, do you mind setting this back up for me?
I'm going to mute the camera. Guys, I'm not muting the camera. I'm going to mute the mic for just a second. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear the mic. Awesome.
I have him do all of this. I'm not a prima donna, I swear. It's just because I might break something. Oh, Austin's doing something very special for me. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but I can't wait to find out. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, here we go. This is really official. I am on stage. I'm so sorry, Instagram people, you can't see this, but there's a curtain behind me on Zoom and there are banners with Fire Diaries on it. It's amazing. I love it. Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. I've selected some passages to read to all of you. And so let's just dive in. This isn't a 10-step book about how to navigate trauma. This is simply my personal story of losing my home through a fire, how it touched me, how it changed me, and how I'm trying to move forward. As with many stories of this kind, there is no perfect bow to tie onto the end. I am a work in progress. My grief is a supple thing swelling and fading as it desires. I wanted to write the raw, the real, the vulnerable, throwing all inhibitions to the side in order to expose my authentic truth. I had been searching for closure after facing trauma. Releasing this story is a step and allows you to walk with me on my journey. Bang, bang, bang. Hey, get out. My eyes pop open. What did I just hear? Another loud yell and more bangs occur, reminding my brain to stay awake. I shoot upright in bed. Do you hear that? I ask Austin. Yeah, he croaks. At first, I think the yelling is drunken party noise, but it grows more desperate. Get out, I hear. I jump out of bed and run to the front of the apartment. A stream of light shines across our front balcony. Its unknown origins don't act as a warning for me. What is the large cloud of smoke rolling by our front windows? Oh my God. Austin, there's a fire. What do we do? Should we call 911? I shriek as I run back to the bedroom. He's already half dressed. What's most important? He asks without answering me. We have the suitcases packed. It is the most practical thing I can think of. He runs to the front of the house and grabs our hard drive and laptops while I throw on my oldest, dumpiest pair of shoes, my 7th grade pink Pumas. There is no time to think. There is only time to act on instinct. I force my left shoe on my right foot and with frantic hands switch it, feeling the loss of precious seconds. There's not a moment to waste. When we pull up in front of my parents' house, my younger sister Mariah comes out of the front door and up the yard to greet me with a hug. She holds me tight and leads me inside straight up to her room. I know how much your clothes meant to you, so I want to give you some of mine, she tells me. I break down and bawl in response. It's true. My wardrobe is something I've coveted ever since I was young. I bought clothes based on whether they were a piece, aka something timeless that would add to my overall long-term style. And coming from my sister, who would, in a sisterly way, steal my clothes and from whom I would steal clothes too, the act was more than generous. It was positively saint-like. The night before the fire, I laid out an outfit for our day of travel, including my cream Chuck Taylors. I tell Mariah of the specific loss, and she shakes her head in sympathy, a Chucks wearer herself. After pulling out clothes from her closet and piling them up for me, Mariah leaves the house to go to the mall. When she gets back, she lifts a Converse box. I'd be so upset not to have my Chucks go with me on a trip, she says, as she hands it over. Inside is a new pair of cream Chucks. They are my first after the fire gift, and I'll never forget the kind act of giving me something so thoughtful. She gave me a pair of new shoes I'd wear to walk into my new life after the fire. When Austin and I moved into our fire apartment, it was ordinary and offered us nothing special. We were accustomed to moving around a lot. As I introduced myself to our new apartment and it in return introduced itself to me, I was surprised at how welcoming it was. An unexpected special bond was created, and I made each room into a reflection of my heart. I took great care of our space by making sure the rooms were well tended and looked after. When I welcomed someone into my home, I was welcoming them into my heart. I took pride in my home. I put effort into each detail around the house. While living in Boone, the home we created was my very favorite place to be. I found peace, joy, rest, and happiness while I spent time there. To give our home a lighthearted and fresh feeling, I found pieces of furniture that were white or off-white, airy and pretty, welcoming. I loved our bathroom with the beautiful cascading shower curtain, fluffy flower bath rug, huge plush bath towels, all white and cream, of course. I loved having everything a girl could want or need while in the bathroom, a variety of shampoos, conditioners, body soaps, the choice of goat's milk soap bar or the regular liquid soap, different hand lotions depending on the user's preference or mood. Even in the bathroom, I liked our guests to feel well taken care of in that home. I wanted their experience to be so pleasant they'd want to come back to experience it again. I wanted it to be a place people remembered fondly. I wanted our home to be memorable, warm, and welcoming. When I escaped from the apartment building and turned around to look up at our burning home, my heart dropped. I felt as if someone had robbed me a part of my soul. You see, my heart and soul were in that home of mine. The belongings weren't just material things to me, they were little pieces of me I collected and specifically placed throughout my home to create a haven, not only for me, but for all who entered. The items I lost were extensions of me. Having parts of me scorched was like having pieces of me die. Every bar of soap and towel I handpicked to curate a safe and loving environment disappeared in a couple of minutes. I lost bits of myself, what I had to offer those I loved, and in extension, what I had to offer the world. A little champagne makes that go down. A number of scars are on my heart as a result of growing up and living life, yet this scar from the fire is still fresh. It is raw and pink, and it hurts like hell. Some days, I happily dance around our new apartment, but then memories of dancing in our old place emotionally slam me against the wall. My dancing comes to an abrupt halt and I sob. Other times I'll drive down the road and with absolutely no reminders of the fire and no thoughts about it in my head, I'll cry out and tears will stream down my face. Trauma has a way of sticking and flowing into life when least expected. There's no logic or reason to its ebbs and flows. It just is. But wait, there's positive. With every setback or moment of sadness, remembering the fire, Austin vocalizes his new mantra for us. We will come out stronger. I nod my head every time in determination and carry his words like the most important telegram clutched in my fist. We will, and already have, come out stronger. I didn't know I was going to get this emotional. I was like, it's 5 years, it won't hit me that hard. Wow, you guys. All right. My husband and I have been able to prevail by being determined to come out better after narrowly escaping our burning home. After losing everything, our interest in collecting material things waned. If something got broken or lost in the past 2 years, we'd remind ourselves of the fire. And it didn't seem to affect us as much. Oh well, it's just stuff, we've said on more than one occasion. Not only has the fire changed our mindset, but this year, it's changed the way we're living life. We were able to pack everything we owned into our cars, leave the town I'd called home for over 7 years, and take off for London for 3 months. We then planned to slowly drive across the country, stay in Arizona for an undetermined amount of time. We've been here for 3 years since writing that. Still undetermined, who knows, love it here. And make our way up to Oregon. Not owning a lot of things has given us life-changing flexibility and freedom. This wouldn't have been as easy or possible without the fire, and I am grateful for the opportunity created because of it. I feel as if I am truly living life to the fullest and embracing all of the moments it has to offer. So, cheers, fire. You've changed the way I see the world, and my eyes are open wide. May I never forget the gift of freedom you have given me.
Now we're going to move on to a discussion with Kelsey, our roommate. I think maybe I mentioned this earlier. Yeah, she's our roommate, not a random person that we decided to come into our house during this time. But thank you so much, Rachel. I was tearing up over there. I didn't think I would tear up being the run the tech part of this operation. But yeah, that was great. So welcome, Kelsey, to the stage. Actually, we're gonna move stages here. Bear with me. All right, now we're back at the interview stage. This is great. Sorry, Instagram, you don't get the same effect. Kelsey, welcome to the stage.
Awesome. Wow. Wow, Rachel. Oh, man. Oh, I'm gonna have to take a minute. Wow. Oh, I'm gonna do the running thing. Oh, now promote this shirt. Oh, but man, whew, I just have to say, this is incredible. But it was such a treat to hear you read your words. They're very powerful, as we know. But honestly, I have to say, it has been such a very inspirational time to be quarantined with you in Austin. It's I can't stop. It's a bug. But because I mean, these two, I mean, if you guys know them, you know they kill it in the entrepreneurial game. They're super inspiring. They don't quit even when a pandemic's happening. And I have to remind them when they're like, oh, we're behind this deadline. I'm like, it's a pandemic. Like, it's okay to be behind. It's okay to not be like, keep doing your goals. But I mean, they've just been killing it. They worked with Matt and his company Trust to get these shirts printed. I mean, the endless editing they've done with Rachel's book, obviously. And I mean, ever since we've been quarantined together, they've just been nonstop working to get this book out there. And it's just been incredible. And I'm so glad it's out there because I shared with both of them, and I mean, Austin put it great. It is a heavy book. Granted, it is also experience that he went through as well. But I mean, being super close to both of them, I was just like, I don't know, honestly, if I can read it. I mean, when the books arrived in the house, it was such excitement. And I was like, I'm going to read it first thing. And then I would look at it every day and be like, I can't read it today. Not today. But I'm so grateful that I picked it up and finally had the courage to read it because, I mean, it is heavy. It is traumatic. It's your trauma, and it's trauma of people I really love and care for deeply. So, you know, it wasn't easy to read, but I mean, just the few passages you read, they're very raw. They're very real. You're very authentic with everything you wrote. And I honestly felt so encouraged to almost be more authentic myself. I mean, we're all, with everything going on in the world, there's so much happening. It is a heavy time for everybody, no matter what position you're in. And reading your book, I just felt encouraged to be more authentic with my own emotions, hence not caring that I'm up here like messing up my words, emotional over there. But yeah, just being authentic and real and recognizing that, you know, you're feeling these emotions. I think that's something you capture very beautifully in your book. And that it was really inspiring myself, having never experienced something to that magnitude. But I thought only having a basic understanding, knowing both of you and knowing your story a little bit, I only had a basic understanding what I would get from the book. But I mean, I got so much more. I just thought I was going to know a little bit more about what happened. But I learned something about myself while reading it. There was these very intimate moments between you and your siblings and your parents, Austin's parents, where you're just interacting for the first time post-fire. And it was just like, oh, like, I want to live that authentically. Like, I want to process the world in that way. And it was just, I mean, you shared the example with Mariah, and just like, yeah, it was just, it was something I needed right now. And I had no idea I did. So for all of you who haven't read the book, I really encourage you. And I'm not just saying that because I'm super biased, but honestly, right now is a great time. You might find yourself having a little hard time to pick it up, but once you do, I promise you will gain something from it. So thank you, Rachel. But I do have some questions to ask. And first question I want to ask is, why Fire Diaries? You mentioned a little bit in the book about you felt compelled to write, but why Fire Diaries? Why does it exist? And then with that same note, what is the one thing you hope people take away from reading your story?
Yeah. First of all, beautiful words. Well said. Kelsey's really good at speaking. It's a gift. Yeah. So why Fire Diaries? It's one of those questions that in the past years, when people have asked me that, I grow a little timid because I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I want to share the real reason why I wrote Fire Diaries, because I don't know if people are going to really like to hear it. Which is funny because, as you mentioned in my book, like, it's very open, it's very raw. I am very honest, and I don't filter myself in the book. And yet I was filtering myself when I answered this question. I've stopped doing that, and I'm going to share with you what it is. And it's that I wrote the book initially because I was incredibly angry. I was heartbroken, and I felt, I was in the limelight. I was in this limelight that I didn't choose to be in, or I didn't ask to be in. It wasn't like fun, like, ooh, look at her, look what she's done. It was a weird experience. And through it, I felt like people, the way that they perceived me, the way that they perceived my situation, the way that they were judging me, and not necessarily in a bad way, but just sort of judging my situation, didn't feel like it was lining up with how I felt about my situation or what I was feeling. And so I didn't want my narrative to be told for me, and I wanted to tell my narrative myself and be authentic and true to the world. And also, I put it out in blog post form, like in diary entries, when I first wrote it, and like a few months after the fire happened. And so through that, it was just like really open and raw. And I wanted people to see me, understand me, hear me. And so what's interesting about that, though, is through writing Fire Diaries, from different people reading it at different points, hearing about them, those who have faced trauma and loss, and how it impacted them positively, to feel like they were seen and heard and understood for the first time. It was really beautiful. And so, like, for me now, the mission of Fire Diaries is that people who have faced trauma or loss can feel seen, heard, and understood.
That's so great to be known. That's great.
Yeah.
My next question for you is, could you share more of your thoughts on the significance of home? Like, you shared that really beautiful passage about how everything was curated. Like, you took time and effort to make your place safe and your own and very uniquely yourself. And even for anyone coming into your home to like have an idea of what your identity is. Could you talk more about those items being a part of your soul? And yeah, if you could share more about that.
Yeah. So there's this idea of materialism that sort of formed for me whenever the fire happened, because again, I was in this limelight and I felt like people were watching me, like, is she going to gracefully take all of her donations, or is she going to start going crazy and buying lots of new stuff? Whether or not people were actually thinking that is sort of besides the point. It's how I felt like I was being looked at. And so it was like a really weird place to be at because I did lose so many things. I think that we all put ourselves into these small things that we surround ourselves with when we go on big trips. A lot of people will have that moment of like, this has been so fun, or, whatever it is that you're out and about doing, but I can't wait to get home and sleep in my own bed. Or I can't wait to, just like be home and feel like safe and secure, fully able to be myself the way that you can only be in your own walls instead of like out into the world. Because of course we're all a little bit different depending on where we are in our surroundings. And so I think that was the big thing about home for me, was losing all of those little things that I had taken and put pieces of who I am into them, carefully selected those and surrounded myself with them. And not in a materialistic way, but more of, this is who I am. These are parts of my soul. And then when you come into my house, you're entering my heart and my soul and like seeing me fully. Yeah. Did I answer that?
Yeah, no, you did.
Okay.
Thank you. I mean, I so identify with that. Like while I was reading it, I mean, we both moved across the country, both live in Arizona, and did so in our car, just only the stuff we could hold. But the things we had in our car were very significant. I know for myself, like a trunk from college that my grandparents gave me, and just like everything was very like, they're invaluable, they're gifts, there's irreplaceable stuff. And you talk about that in the book too. And I was like, I mean, I have that same thing, and it would be, of course, things are things, but at the same time, they are a part of us. We put time and effort into getting them and curating our space. So I really appreciate that idea, because I do see myself as a minimalist, but I also really care for some things. Okay, awesome. So post-fire, you share a mantra that you and Austin repeat often, and it is we will come out stronger. And you read a bit about that in the passage. But can you share more about what that meant to you then and what that means to you now?
Yeah. So as you read Fire Diaries, you'll see this. And if you know our story, you know this about us. But when the fire happened, Austin had much more of like a military approach, and he knew what we needed to do, like step by step, and he figured everything out. And he was talking to people and lining things up. Meanwhile, I'm over here breaking down, screaming, yelling, crying, just like an absolute mess. And but the thing is like I was so grateful to have a husband like Austin, a partner like Austin, because he sort of instilled that in me, that we will come out stronger, and don't let this tragedy swallow you whole, rather use it to propel you forward. And I think it can be really hard when you're in the thick of it. And of course, like, I mean, as you'll see through my book, like I let all of my anger and my rage and my sadness and depression about everything come out. And I think absolutely there's space for that, but there's also space to use that, harness it, garner it, and make it propel you forward, because you can go so much farther if you use it as a tool rather than just letting it swallow you whole. Wow. And so today, I mean, we still use the "we will come out stronger" mantra. Constantly. We're all facing trials, I mean, especially right now. And they can be small trials even in your day-to-day life, but reminding myself of that, it really helps me to push forward and not feel like I just want to crumble and give up on my dreams.
Here. That was great. Power couple coming through again. It's a great mantra. Now, this is a kind of a funny question. For those of you who read the book, you hear about the mailbox. And to me, when I read it, I was like, this mailbox, like it is this almost mascot of trauma. And I mean, because post-fire, you lived, like you would pass where the fire was every single day when you were going to town. And the mailbox kind of like it taunted and encouraged. It became this character that I would have never imagined would be in your book. But I wonder if you could share a little bit about the mailbox and like what it represented. And I did want to say one side note, because I know we all have like a love for letters, and I saw like, oh, like the mailbox representing letters, and like nothing's finer than a well-written letter. Like, I mean, you write about love letters, getting them from Austin, and like those being really precious. And I mean, I identify with that too. And so the mailbox being like a place for letters, but then also, yeah, if you could just share more about that, I think it's really interesting.
Yes. Okay. So after the fire, everything's burnt except for our mailbox, along with the other people who lived in the apartment. Their mailboxes. They were at the end of the road, so they weren't scorched. And every time I drove by, I would look at my mailbox. I was like, it still felt like my mailbox. It felt like the one thing that I was still connected to at that site, at what used to be my home. And it was just, it is funny, but I totally anthropomorphized this mailbox, and it became like a sentient thing for me, and I felt like it communicated to me. And the fire obviously is the reason I wrote Fire Diaries, but I really think that because of the mailbox and the way that I perceived this mailbox and had this relationship with this mailbox is the reason why Fire Diaries really saw the light of day. Because it was like through the mailbox that I sort of had these realizations of I should write this story, and I should write these letters, but not just for one person that I'm sending it to, but for anybody to read. And I actually typed up on my typewriter Fire Diaries, and then I put it in the mailbox, and for a while it was there as a piece that the community could go and read Fire Diaries at the site of it happening, which was really cool. So yeah, me and the mailbox, we had a really interesting relationship. You'll have to read about it.
It's really fascinating, and how like it now is kind of, well, it was an art installation when you added your typed up story. It's really interesting for sure. I mean, a good interesting. Now, if you could share a little bit more about self-publishing. I know people might be interested to know more about that because you are self-publishing, and a bit about your journey with that.
Of course. Okay, I'm going to back up just a little bit. So 6 months before the fire is when I really started writing. However, it was naive beginnings, as most are. And I wrote when I was inspired. I was literally at the whims of inspiration. And I didn't know what like being a professional writer was yet. It was just like, this is fun, and like I could do this. And I didn't know if I wanted to be self-published or traditionally published at that point. I was learning about both, but undecided. And then when the fire hit, when it happened, it literally, like I think Austin said this, but it lit a fire under my own ass. Like, I need to figure out what I want to do with my life. And so it really just put me off into this trajectory. And I realized too, I want to have the rights to my story, just like I wanted to own my narrative. I wanted to feel similarly about this story. And so I felt like self-publishing, that meant that I could have the rights to my story. I could, all the details that go along with it, that I would have creative control over that. And then, yeah, I didn't want to have to go to the agents and the publishers, those gatekeepers, for them, in whatever state that they're at that moment, subjectively say that your story is worthy. And I just decided that I wanted to take it into my own hands. Now, I say all of this, I don't think that traditional versus self-publishing, that there's one way to go. I think it's all beautiful, and it's a way to get books out into the world. And what I decided was that I wanted to put it into the reader's hands and let them sort of be the gatekeepers, if you will, the ones who are going to read it and be affected by it and impacted, and let them decide. So that's how I came here.
Excellent. That's great to know. Thanks for that insight. Now, my last question for you is, you wrote about wanting closure. I felt like throughout the book, you were constantly trying to seek it, and you mentioned that, in different ways, maybe you didn't or didn't get it. But can you talk more about that? And do you feel like Fire Diaries brought you closure?
Yes. I do think Fire Diaries brought me closure. I was on this journey, and I didn't even know what closure meant or what it was going to look like. And I don't think anybody ever does. And I did have this one idea that going back into the burned up place was going to give me closure somehow. And you'll read about that. And I won't give it away of what happens with all of that, but that's not how I found closure. But writing Fire Diaries was so cathartic, and it brought so much healing to me because I felt like I could just pour my heart out. And then have people read it and feel like I was seen and understood. And then because of that, like, I think it's really beautiful that other people can possibly find healing through it. So just paying it forward then at that point. And of course I still get, clearly I still get choked up about it, but of course I found closure through writing Fire Diaries. So yes.
Well, excellent, Rachel. I mean, it was a treat to read, and a really timely treat. And yeah, this has been super great. And now I think we're going to pass it over to Austin to read out some questions from Zoom. Yay, but thanks.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Fire Diaries represent. It is a very interesting thing to be super pumped and super stoked about a book that's about sadness and tragedy. And it's when I read it, I cry, and I can't read it very frequently or often. But when I do, it makes such a big impact. But I'm so proud of Rachel and all of the, not just the hard work. I mean, if anybody's written a book, like, that's hard work. She wrote it as blog posts, as like a just raw something, like energy. And then that's one thing, but then taking that and going through iteration after iteration after iteration to make this book something that's like really beautiful to read and flows and has all the correct tenses. Anybody like grammar? Not me. Sharon, what's up? But yeah, it's hard work, and I'm so proud of her dedication to getting this out there. She also has 3 novel manuscripts that are in the various stages of getting completion. Thanks. And anyways, sorry, I got off topic here. We got some questions. That's what I do. So Lucia asked, what are some of the challenges of transitioning blog posts to a book?
A lot. At least for me it was. I think that it's the flow of things, because when you write a blog post, it's sort of in a certain style of blog post writing, and even the formatting of it is different. So then you have to take that over and try to create these chapters out of it. And it was tricky, and like, honestly, it took some tears getting through it. And I had to figure out the flow of it better, because blog posts are very choppy, and I worked with an editor, and she really helped point out the different areas of, if I move these things around, the flow of this is going to be a lot better, figuring out how to make it more chronological than the way that I had it, which was kind of all over the place. Did that on purpose, which worked for what I was doing at the time with the blogs, but didn't work when I was trying to make a book out of it. And I mean, I even would go as far as, like, I printed it all off, I laid it all around our house, and I would take scissors and tape and just start cutting places and taping it to other places, because I can't work just in like a computer dock and try to move all of that around. It was a little too crazy. So it took a lot of hard work, but I think it's doable. So if you want to do it, you should do it.
The next question comes from Abby, your sister. She said, how do you think Fire Diaries would be different if you had waited to write it now? Are you grateful that you had the courage to get it down so close to when it happened?
Yes, I've actually been thinking about that a lot as I'm launching this, because when something tragic happens, it's really hard to turn around and be like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write it all out verbatim, how that happened, and relive it. And it's like, it's heart-wrenching. I cried a lot while I was writing this stuff, but again, it was super cathartic. And if I wrote it now, I just don't think that the details and quite the raw emotion of it would stick the way that it did when I wrote it then. So I'm really grateful that I did that, and it's made me realize, like, whenever the next tragic thing happens, like, I'm going to go back to the pen and paper and get all of the details down, and then really just pour my heart out again. So if anybody is in that boat of writing, or even, I don't know, just something interesting to keep in mind, it's sort of a weird thing to say, but I found it so healing, and I think that the book is so much stronger because I was able to capture it right after it happened. That was a great question. Thanks, Abby.
Lenine has the next question, and it is, what was the most fun part about the process of publishing?
Publishing. I'm not gonna lie. The publishing part is a little bit trickier for me because it's a lot of like technical stuff. Okay, yeah, Austin's giving me my answer right now, but it's like holding the physical copy of your book in your hand and actually like looking at it, opening it, seeing the pages and being like, okay, this I was working on this on the computer for so long, and like now here's the actual physical thing that I can hold, I can give to people, I can show, and yeah, bringing it to life, this part, that's totally it.
Katie has a great question. She said, "You're amazing."
Thank you, Katie.
There was more to it. She said, "You're amazing. Loved Fire Diaries. What's next?"
Great question, Katie. Well, what's next is I'm going to be taking a bit of a turn in my writing. I have written a chick lit humor novel called Late Bloomer, and I've written it, I've sent it out to my beta readers, I've gotten lots of feedback, and so I'm going to be working on that in my next iterations and writing and editing and working with my editor. But the chick lit humor is very lighthearted, it's very funny, it's silly, about a 29-year-old who moves to Arizona from North Carolina. Um, she's about to turn 30, so she makes a list of 30 things she's going to do before she turns 30 because she feels behind everybody else in her career, in her love life. She's never been in a real relationship before. One of her things on her list is to lose her virginity. So it's very lighthearted, and to me, it was great to write this. I tend towards dark, like the melancholy, which I love. But this has been such a joy to write, and I'm very excited about getting this out into the world. I like to call it my American millennial Bridget Jones sort of for books. So that'll be coming next.
It's very good. It's hilarious. Let's see. Tina has a question. It's so wonderful writing. Sorry, I'm terrible at reading. It's so wonderful writing. It was cathartic. So wonderful writing. It was cathartic and healing. Do you ever truly feel like giving up on it?
I kind of have a clarifying question. Maybe you can help me. Giving up on what exactly?
Oh, Tina, do you mean like giving up on the writing process while like putting it together?
Yeah, sorry. It said it's so wonderful writing. It was cathartic and healing. Did you ever truly feel like giving up on it?
Yeah.
On writing the book.
Yeah. Yes. So I wrote it 5 years ago-ish is when I started. And it's taken me 5 years. And the reason for that is because I've put it down and picked it back up so many times. And I, whoa, it's wobbling. And I think the reason I kept putting it down and then I would work on a different manuscript is because it was hard. And I think it wasn't as hard as like the part about it putting myself out there in this raw, real way. That wasn't what was difficult. It was more of like, how do I make this more of a full, succinct story that will engage people throughout the whole thing? And so I was worried that I wasn't going to get that right. And so I think that's why I kept pushing it off. So yeah, there were times that it was tricky, but in the end, I knew that I always wanted to put this out there. So I was gonna do it no matter what.
Yeah, great question. And I can speak to her levels of like feeling confident in things. You know how any kind of new project you're working on, even the closer it gets to completion, there's like that moment of, it's not good enough. Nope, I should just pull the plug. And we both kind of do this. We're creating things and putting them out into the world, and they're new and they're our thing, and our name's going to be on it. And that moment before publishing is the scariest one. And even if Amazon gives you a little bit of a pause when you're like, publish, and it says error. It gives you something to focus on other than your raw emotions of terror and fear for putting something out into the world. You get mad at Amazon, and that's a nice little scapegoat for your emotions. Would anybody like to unmute yourself and be bold and brave and ask a question with your voice? That's welcome now. We've run out of questions in the chat. If not, I'd like to, I'm going to give you a second because there's even a lag. If none of you raise your hand, I'm going to have to call on somebody. I'm not going to call on anybody. But what I want to do is if anybody has a drink with you or an imaginary drink, unmute yourself. Go ahead and unmute yourself. We're going to give Rachel a big old cheers here. Give you a second to unmute. Rachel, congratulations. I'm proud of you. Your book is amazing. Your heart is beautiful. I love you. Congrats. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you for being here. It literally means the world.
We love you.
Love you.
Oh, you guys are awesome.
Oh. Thanks, everybody. That's so great. Some final little notes here. I'm going to put the website in here again on the chat. That's where you can go grab the book or the bundle. And yeah, the fun announcement that I wanted to make is that we're going to pick somebody who's still on the Zoom call here to get a free bundle. You're going to get a t-shirt, audio book. You're going to get an ebook, a signed copy by Rachel to you or to whom you would like it to go to. Woo! I'm going to go to the participants. There are 24 participants. Wait, dude, I totally messed up my line. There's 64,000 people watching live. Let's choose a person. Who's got a phone? I've got a phone. Siri, pick a random number between 1 and 24,000. Number 7, let's count down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Bobby Gaude! Woo! Hey, buddy. Bobby, congratulations. You've won the Fire Diaries bundle with the t-shirt, the signed copy, the ebook, and the coming soon audiobook. We will be sending it to you soon. Congratulations.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
I'm going to hit one button over here. Like that. I don't know if you already hit that. Yeah, thanks everybody for coming. This was so much fun. We've been looking forward to this for a while, and it really is a special day. We actually fell asleep pretty late last night, and because we're on Pacific time, we realized that we were like going to bed right at the time that our the apartment caught on fire. And it was really quite a bizarre thing to just like be so in this book in this moment and remembering that like crazy time. But we've really come so far. And thank you so much to all the support from our friends and family, all of you. It means so much. And I don't know, it really is such a wild time right now with everybody feeling emotional about the world and the insecurity of everything. But people are so good and we love each other. And the support that we give each other really makes a huge impact. During our fire, people were starting GoFundMe account things, and like random people that we didn't know were like sending money our way. And it was just every time we got something, it was just like this emotional, like, what? This is crazy. And one of my big takeaways from the fire experience was that like it's a really beautiful thing that people really love to like. There's so much love in the world, and that even if you don't know somebody, that the dollars that you send to the Lord birthday account for someone to pay their phone bill because they lost their job, it makes Yeah, Willoughby. Yeah, that's right. It makes such a big impact. The little things to big things, that all makes a huge difference. And so thanks to everybody for being here. This really is just touching. We're going to remember this day for a very long time, possibly forever, probably forever. But yeah, one more closing cheers, unless there's anything else I missed.
No, that's it.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. Oh, I'm going to pause. Back up.
Oh, yeah.
Hold up on the cheers. The only other thing that I would just really love for you to do is, when you read the book, go to Amazon and review it and give your honest thoughts and opinions. It doesn't have to be some beautifully written, perfect thing. But if you just leave a review, that makes such a big difference especially for like a independent author. Leaving a book review on Amazon tells Amazon that people are reading it and it's interesting, and they'll put it in front of other people. And so this is really the beginning of Fire Diaries getting out into the world, and any kind of review you leave on Amazon will make a huge difference for us and for getting this to people who will be touched by it. So I know that you're all, I'm the same. I'm this way with so many things. Like, well, yeah, I'm going to give a review for that thing once I'm done. And then I'm like, I should do that next week. I'll put it on my list to do. It's not a hard thing, but it's hard for some reason, to get to go do it. But I know you're all very intelligent, smart, and wonderful people. So I believe in you. You can do it. All right, Rachel, you're amazing. Your book is amazing and beautiful. Cheers. Cheers, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Yeah, that's some serious cheersing.
Yes.
Yes. And thanks again for Kelsey for being here. Y'all are awesome. Abby said,
How do we buy the book?
Go to firediariesbook.com. I'm going to post a link in here one more time. FT.
Buy a t-shirt. I don't know if Austin said this, but the paperback, yeah, thanks. I'm like trying to talk to the faces. The paperback has not been released yet. Amazon's been a little fickle with me. But it will be up in like the next 24 to 48 hours. But you can also, if you go to firediariesbook.com, you can order the signed copy there, and it'll just take a little while to get to you.
Yeah, basically we'll get the copy so Rachel can sign it and get it to you. So you can go ahead and order a signed copy on the website, firediaries.com, firediariesbook.com. But yeah, we'll send an email out when the paperback version is available. We were like stressing and hustling to try to get like an updated version for them, and they have a long review period. But anyways, it was one of those things where like, man, no, this is ruining it. No. And then we both had that moment of, remember that thing we experienced and it made other things not feel so crazy or bad? You know, that fire. Maybe not having the paperback available on the day of launch isn't going to be the worst. We'll make it. And so that's the energy we're bringing to this. And yeah, anyways, thanks so much for the support. Any other questions about like anything? I don't want to just cut off and like somebody be like, I didn't know how to do something. Oh, I'm just looking through the chat too. Thank you for all these sweet notes. Oh, all right. Have a wonderful weekend. You're all beautiful people.
Anybody who wants to stick around, we're gonna have like an after party where we drink and chat. So don't feel like you have to, but if you want to, you can. Oh, ow.
Love y'all.
Love you.
Love you. Love you, mean it.
You rock, Rachel.
Oh, thanks, girl.
You.
And cut.
Yo,
In scene.
we gonna be done.
Wow.
Hey, Mom,
That's.
we're not
You need to go to bed,
I'm
don't
going
you?
to
Wait,
change.
when are we going to be done?
Never.
When are we gonna be done? Well, I mean, you can be done. Oh, thanks. Oh, hey. Oh, hey. Look at all of your beautiful
Maggie and Sam.
faces.
Okay. Huge shout out to Europe.
Devin and Danae from
Represent.
Amsterdam are here, and it is late for you guys.
All right, we got our Baileys.
It's like 2:05 in the morning.
Oh my God, you guys are amazing.
This was amazing. We're really looking forward to the next launch. So
Thank you. Thank you. That means so much. Seriously. Oh, we love you guys.
love you heaps, bud. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you. Good night.
Good day.
Good day. Good day. Maggie and Sam are here, and they're living in the house right now in Boone that we lived in after the fire. Pretty cool.
Rachel, it's so sad and dreary here, just like you like it.
I love that. I miss it so much. It's like, what is it,
I'll show you.
99? Yes.
Sam's got to go write his thesis too, but he was staying to say
Proud of you.
hello.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Sam.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, I'm gonna read it.
Thank
Good
you.
luck, Sam.
Here's the weather that has blessed you.
Oh my
Oh, it's
God. Cry.
That
I
was the-
missed that.
That was the best thing. Like, so we went from the apartment we lived in, we made home, but it wasn't naturally the most beautiful place. But when we moved into that house with your family, like, I mean, we were in a separate basement apartment, but it was just such a great place to be. It felt like home, you know, a home that we couldn't have expected after losing everything.
Can you stop recording so I can be weird?